gurudumu ya lugha ya taifa.
Mheshimiwa Spika, hata hiyo lugha ya taifa pia si mdomo changu. Kwa hivyo, may I please request you, Mr. Speaker, to allow me to make my contribution on this noble and very important legislation proposal. Mr. Speaker, before I make my presentation, I would really want to appreciate and thank our colleague, senior colleague, Mr. Stephen Mule, who has today literally moved from one chair to the other, encouraging new members and assuring them that they'll have an opportunity to speak. That is the kind of leadership we want in the House, and I want to encourage other senior members to borrow a leaf from Mr. Mule. Mr. Speaker, on the issue before you, I must say that CDF is a fund sui generis, a special of its own. I say special of its own, and I think much has been said by honorable members of the importance of CDF on educational infrastructure in the entire country. But Mr. Speaker, allow me to pose a question to you. How did we get here? Where is the problem? And Mr. Speaker, I see the problem in what philosophers call epistemology, the problem of perception. And I think, and I say so, Mr. Speaker, because when you look at the fight against CDF, the question actually when you ask the people who are going to court is not whether or not we should have CDF. The question, and I think the problem has always been on the perception that CDF is pocket change of members of parliament. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, you'll find the courts fighting CDF, the media fighting CDF, the civil society fighting CDF, and even the media, Mr. Speaker. I was shocked when I saw an article from the Standard published recently when this motion was being debated. The title of the article is that overjoyed MPs retained outlawed CDF in the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, I think what we are suffering and why we are having the fight against CDF is purely a problem of perception of CDF, which is now perceived as pocket money for members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, why I say that this is a problem of perception, because we have so many funds in the county government, we have so many funds in the national government, which are actually established by regulations. But we are now forced as members of parliament to have this fund entrenched in the Constitution because of the fear. And this actually makes me think, if these people had the opportunity of declaring members of National Assembly and constitutional, they would have done that, Mr. Speaker. Because I think the fight is more against members of parliament as against the CDF Act itself. So, Mr. Speaker, just before I joined parliament, I had an opportunity of appearing with you in a matter in Kilifi. And one of the people who motivated me as a young lawyer to vie in this election is to be people like you, because I used to see that the position of member of parliament is a lucrative position and it has a national figure, and in addition to that, probably there is good remuneration. But Mr. Speaker, after interaction with members of parliament in this house, I can confidently say some of them are moving loans. Moving loans because, Mr. Speaker, of the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis as they help their constituents. While seated here, Mr. Speaker, I have paid school fees for 10 students, 3 from Macloriti Secondary in Taveta, 2 from Eldoro Secondary in Taveta, 1 from Jukini Secondary in Taveta, 3 from Timbila Secondary in Taveta, while seated here. So, unless, Mr. Speaker, we do something with CDF, I am telling you, most of of these members of parliament will be running away, will be staying in parliament, not because they have no any other activities outside parliament, but running away from auctioneers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, after interaction with members of parliament here, I know members of parliament who run to Shylocks, not because they want to go to take the loans, but they want to pay school fees for their constituents in their villages. So, Mr. Speaker, my plea to you and to the leadership of the House, even as we deliberate on constitutionalization of CDF, please, I plead that we should not even disperse members of parliament salary first. Let them disperse CDF before getting this money. Because in the end, we have converted our salaries to be CDF. We are now paying school fees, we are paying hospital bills, we are paying ambulance services because there is no CDF. Hundreds of students are now out of school because of lack of CDF. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with us, even as we entrench the leadership of the House, led by you as truly, Mr. Speaker, to go and ensure that Treasury release the CDF before any other activity. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we should expand CDF beyond the education and security functions that it is offering. Why do I say so? Mr. Speaker, Article 189 of the Constitution allows different levels of government to cooperate in their functions to ensure that we deliver to the people. So I see no problem with me as a member of parliament cooperating with the county government of Taita Taveta and putting up a modern maternity facility for our people in Taveta. I see no problem me collaborating or cooperating with the county government and ensuring that our ECD structures are built so that we have our children in schools and we have our community advancing day by day. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that unless we rush and protect the CDF, we will have a problem where children are out of school. Instead of raising students who are able to take over our positions in future, we have dropouts in school who will cause problem to our society. And I asked myself, we have a problem of activism even in the judiciary. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at petition number 1 of 2018 of the Supreme Court, whatever was in challenge was the CDF Act of 2013. But the judges found a way of deliberating and touching on CDF Act of 2015. In a way, telling the activists who went to court, even this one, if you rush to court, bring it here, we will also nullify it. So we have a problem. We have a problem of judicial activism in Kenya, and I want to plead with all members of parliament, let us now entrench this kitty in the Constitution so that we protect it for the future. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable John Bwire. For those who knew you before, like myself, you are a great addition to the Parliament as a whole, not just National Assembly. I wish you well as I congratulate you as you start this journey to join us in being the ATM. The ATM. Honorable George N. Gachagua, MP from Daragwa.